This episode is brought to you by CoolStuffInc.com, the #1 seller of games and gaming accessories. And GatheringMagic.com, the #1 resource for Magic the Gathering news and articles.
Hi, my name is Chris, and this is Sydri Galvanic Genius. Alright, well this is my take on Sydri Galvanic Genius. For a blue, she turns target non-creature artifact into an artifact creature with power and toughness equal to its converted mana cost. And for white and black, she gives an artifact creature death touch and lifelink until end of turn. When I first picked up the Esper deck from the Commander 13 product, I really thought it deserved to be two separate decks. One being an artifact based, which is what I tried to do here, and the second being a life gain based, which I'm still working on. The other thing that made me want to build this deck is that this is by far my favorite new artwork in the Commander 13 product. Therese Nielsen did an absolutely fantastic job on this. So there's the big version and the little version. Then we have two of each basic land: island, plains, and swamps. Utility lands and mana fixing is next. Mystifying Maze. Maze of Ith. You always want to stop those guys from getting at you. Celestial Colonnade is to help recover after a board wipe. Same with Mishra's Factory. Reliquary Tower, kind of a staple. Urborg for mana fixing. Bojuka Bog to deal with those pesky graveyards. Strip Mine for any trouble lands that I come across. Buried Ruin, this deck runs a lot of artifacts, so being able to get one back is pretty helpful. Same with creatures. Volrath Stronghold lets me put anything back on top. And then Vesuva and Thespian Stage, both to help get back, or I'm sorry, help to copy anything that I have out there. I run Urzatron because why not? There's lots of artifacts in here. The three Vivids. And the rest of the mana fixing is the two color-based lands. Isolated Chapel and Temple of Silence, because the enemy colors aren't reflected in any of the others. Seachrome Coast. Darkslick Shores. Glacial Fortress. Drowned Catacomb. And the two Tainted lands that fit with this deck, Tainted Field and Tainted Isle. And then lastly are the artifact lands, which help increase my artifact count. Darksteel Citadel, Ancient Den, Vault of Whispers, and Seat of the Synod. Oh, and of course Command Tower. Running quite a few creatures with activated abilities in here. I thought Training Grounds would be a good inclusion. Thoughtcast helps me draw cards, and with the affinity for artifacts, it's always going to be cheap. Greed will help me draw additional cards. There's probably about 10 cards from the original deck that I left in here, and this is one of them. Argivian Find lets me return an enchantment or an artifact from my graveyard to my hand. There's two counterspells in the deck, Faerie Trickery and Counterspell. And then we'll start getting into the artifact creatures. Tower Gargoyle is from the Commander product. 4/4 for 4 is pretty good. Same with Tidehollow Strix. Flying and Death Touch kind of hold those attackers back. Master of Etherium. Other artifact creatures I control get +1/+1, and his power and toughness is equal to the number of artifacts I control. Etched Champion. I'm usually going to have Metalcraft, and protection from all colors is pretty strong. Solemn Simulacrum. I do run Memnarch. I don't have any crazy, insane tricks with him. Just thought he fit pretty well since the Commander also makes things artifacts. Phyrexian Metamorph to help copy. Etherium Sculptor brings down the cost of my artifacts by 1 colorless each. Consecrated Sphinx, kind of a blue staple, helps me draw a lot. Then Fogbank and Wall of Denial, those two help me fend off early attackers. Broodstar can get pretty out of control with affinity for artifacts. Also Flying for evasion, has power and toughness equal to the number of artifacts I control. Grand Architect. There are a lot of artifact creatures in here, so being able to tap them for mana is, turn them blue and tap them for mana is pretty helpful. A few mana rocks, Soul Ring, Basalt Monolith, Gilded Lotus, which helps with the fixing as well. In a 3-color deck, I'll take all the help I can get. Same with Chromatic Lantern. And then I run a few different things to help me reduce the cost of the artifacts that I'm playing. Semblance Anvil, Cloud Key. When it comes into play, choose artifact, creature, enchantment, instant, or sorcery, and spells I play of the chosen type cost 1 less. Vidalcan Orrery lets me play anything at instant speed. Unwinding Clock is kind of like the Seedborn Muse for artifact decks. I get to untap everything during everyone's turn. Sculpting Steel, always good to have an artifact out there to copy the other ones. And Sensei's Divining Top. Voltaic Key, you pay 3 to untap target artifact. Vidalcan Shackles, because the deck does run blue, I know there's not a ton of islands in it, but I figured it would up my count and help me gain control of at least some of the smaller guys. Expedition Map helps me go get those basic lands that I'm missing. And then Spellbook, no maximum, well, skip your discard phase, rather. Tormod's Crypt, in addition to Bojuka Bog, lets me deal with problematic graveyards. In my particular meta, using your graveyard as a toolbox is pretty popular. 1000-Year Elixir lets me use any creature's activated abilities as though they had haste, and I can also untap a creature with it. Crawl Space from the original deck, great new art, also reduces the amount of creatures that can attack me. Nevinyrral's Disc, also great new art. I know it was on a promo or from the vaults or something before, but I really like this one a lot, so that's from the original deck. Cranial Plating, could be a 1-turn swing if I get it out there at the right time. Fire Shrieker, it's the second of 3 equipment that I run. The deck could probably stand to use a few more, but right now these were the 3 that I felt were most important. So Fire Shrieker gives them double strike. And Boots. Then I have a few cards in here that are going to either prevent or make people pay to attack me. Windborn Muse, Propaganda, and Ghostly Prison. Basically they all do the same thing. Any opponent has to pay 2 to attack you for each creature. Then we get into the single shot removal. Mortify, Path to Exile, Oblivion Ring, Swords to Plowshares, Oblation. I actually find that I use Oblation on myself more than on opponents just so that I can get the card draw out of it. Tragic Slip is in there, hopefully with a Morbid trigger to deal with Indestructibles. And then a couple of board wipes, Supreme Verdict and Day of Judgment. And that puts me into my Planeswalkers. Based on the colors, Tezzeret pretty much needs to be in there. I can look at the top 5 cards, reveal an artifact, and put it into my hand. His -1 is target artifact becomes a 5/5 artifact creature. And his ultimate is target player loses X life and you gain X life, where X is the number of artifacts I own. Or control, rather. So yeah, he has to be dealt with pretty much. Venser is just in there to help me get unblockable mostly. The Exile isn't super effective in this deck just based on my lack of come into play creatures. Karn's in there because he's Karn. Can take care of everything pretty much. I couldn't really imagine ever using his ultimate ability, as if anyone ever did that to me I would be pretty irritated. Get into my tutors. There's Demonic Tutor. Beseech the Queen. Costs either 3 black or 2 colorless for each one of those. Search your library for a card with converted mana cost less than or equal to the number of lands you control. Reveal it and put it into your hand, then shuffle your library. Diabolic Tutor. Enlightened Tutor. Fabricate. Since there are so many artifacts, it's an effective tutor. Mystical Tutor. And lastly, Steel Shaper's Gift. I know there aren't a whole lot of equipment in the deck. I probably plan on adding more soon, so that'll be helpful. However, the few that are in there are pretty effective once I get them, specifically cranial plating, so I just wanted an additional card in there that would allow me to dig that up. Alright, well that's my Sydri Galvanic Genius deck. I hope you enjoyed watching, and as always, thanks for watching CMDR decks. Please subscribe and favorite.